Hey guys,
Hello there, guys.
Good morning, gentlemen.
I think we're live, right?
It
I
is
think we are. Yeah.
at 9:30. Yep.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone to Dev Office Hours. We've got some exciting new things to share. I don't know. Do you guys want to talk about anything before we dive into the demos?
Today is the first day that ZetaChain developer office hours are streaming live from Instagram. So
Oh, that's cool.
this will be a new integration we'll test out just to see who's learning how to build on Instagram.
I think most developers are learning on Instagram. That's how I learned to program.
Did you though?
Of course not.
Everybody starts somewhere, whether it's a deep thread on Reddit or an Instagram post that triggers.
That's true.
I mean, the medium doesn't matter as long as people learn and build stuff. So cool. Well, Hernan, I propose you start off with the front end.
Yeah, sure. So let me share my screen. Let me know when you guys can see it. Can you see it?
Yeah, just switch to the
Yeah,
text editor.
cool. Okay, so yeah, I guess before jumping into the actual front end example, it'll be interesting to remind folks that we made some updates into the toolkit, which basically, let me show this package.json real quick. So here we are. So basically, we are now exporting some of the functions that we are also using in the CLI, which what this means basically is that you can import any of these functions into your front-end projects, which is what I'm going to be showing you guys right now. So basically, I'm going to be importing a toolkit EVM call function into a front-end React project. So let me show you what that looks like first. Let's jump directly into the example. So yeah, basically this is the front end, and as you can see, you can connect any EIP6963 compatible wallet. Right now, I only have MetaMask into my browser, but let's say, for example, I add a few more. This should automatically pick them up once it recognizes they are in the browser environment. I'm still going to be using MetaMask. So first, let me start using any unsupported networks. I mean, at least in the regards of this tutorial. So basically, this is a testnet tutorial. So if it detects that you are connecting into an unsupported testnet network, it will prompt you to switch to a supported network for the tutorial. So let's give that a try. And let's do this with Arbitrum Sepolia, why not? So this is pretty much the crux of the entire tutorial. It's as simple as writing any message. And what this message is going to do is we are going to be sending an EVM call transaction into an already deployed universal contract, a hello contract, which I'm going to be showing you guys right now. So let's say we run something random here. This is going to be prompting, the transaction request in my wallet. Let's confirm. Usually, Arbitrum Sepolia transactions are extremely fast. So we already have a transaction hash here. Let's take a look at this one. And it's basically just called, the call function into the Arbitrum Sepolia gateway. And we already have a transaction on ZetaChain as well. This was incredibly fast. And let's take a look. And there's our message. So I guess this shows how simple it is. to simply call a universal contract on a connected chain. I mean, it took like, I don't know, seconds. It was incredibly fast. So let's take a look at the actual universal contract. As you can see, it's going to be incredibly simple. So basically, we define the event, and on the on-call function, we simply emit the event. That's pretty much the gist of it. And let me show you how calling this actual function looks like in the front-end code. So basically, the idea is we imported from ZetaChain Toolkit. Let me show you how we installed it into our project, but it's as easy as yarn install and installing the actual dependency. Then you can import any of these functions. Here we define the params and the options. So the way these functions are defined is they have params and options. So we define them separately and call them here. And this is, I mean, a demonstration of how easy it is to call these functions on the front end, and which basically is demonstrated on the front end tutorial. So, I mean, I guess I covered a lot, but it actually was quite fast. And I think being fast here is a good thing because, I mean, it shows how simple it is to basically interact with a universal contract. So do we have any questions here?
I think this is really cool. I understand that it's a very simple example, but the point of it is not to show what you can accomplish with ZetaChain. It's just to get you started, right? You will get this front-end example in the basic template, so you're going to have it by default, and just like the time to actual call on ZetaChain is very short, which is really cool. And then you like as soon as you see that. By the way, I'm getting some echo. If you guys can mute yourself, just so that viewers can have better audio. So yeah, I think the fact that you can like demo this very quickly for yourself to see how these cross-chain transactions work, and using a very simple example for this, which shouldn't really go wrong, right? It just emits an event, and then you can build on top of this. You can make it more interesting, right? You can, I don't know, mint an NFT as a response to a call. You can maybe explore how to make an outgoing call from this contract. I mean, that's going to be a bit more complex, but you can definitely build on top of this example and make a fully fledged application if you prefer to work from kind of, if you prefer to start from a basic example. So we're going to be working on more examples of more sophisticated applications because some people prefer to kind of get started with a complete app for, I don't know, swapping tokens or something, but some prefer to have like a very simple example that you can really understand and that you can modify and build out your application. So I'm super excited about that.
It's very quick demo. Very
Yeah, it was very quick, but I mean, I think that's actually a good thing, right? I mean, it shows, you know, how easy it is to interact with ZetaChain and universal contracts.
We could make the whole thing into short form content, but
absolutely, we could.
It's a great demo. Now, I don't want to ask any hard questions. I really don't. But you know, I always do have odd questions. Like, what about the other way around? Like, what if we wanted to send something from ZetaChain instead of a call to ZetaChain, or you know, from ZetaChain to another chain, right? Or vice versa.
Yeah, I think we also have called from ZetaChain to connected networks. Is that correct, Dennis?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not covered in the hello example, but we have a call example, which I actually think we need to refactor a bit, make it easier to understand. But we definitely have demos of how to do this with withdraw and call, and regular call without asset. So
yeah. I am learning alongside you guys. I am so new to the ZetaChain docs, and so it's really great to have these, you know, in-person, one-on-one walkthroughs. Like, it's It's better than YouTube. It's I can ask questions to YouTube.
Yeah, that this would be the moment to ask questions. Yeah, for sure.
More questions, including so when you say you added the toolkit, that will additionally add the UI component, or is it something?
Yeah, no, basically the UI stuff lives inside the example contracts repo. So basically in example contracts, I don't know if you're familiar with the actual repo, but example contracts is a collection of examples. One of the examples is hello. And hello actually existed before this front-end application. So basically what I did is I added a front-end folder in here. So let's say you want to like start using this example from scratch. What you would do is you basically go to ZetaChain. I think this is example contracts. You would come here, you would clone this repo with git clone. And what that basically does is it creates this folder in your local, folders. And then once you have access to this, you simply navigate to examples, hello, frontend. And once you're in there, it's as simple as writing yarn install. And then you would run yarn dev. And you have the front-end app running locally in your system.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, I see you have a few more folders, and according to your folder structure, I've made it through hello and call. So I'm working my way down the list. It looks like I've still got NFT, swap, and token to go.
Yeah, there's really a lot of good stuff. And I guess the idea would be at some point to have front-end examples for all of them, or at least for some of them.
It just depends. Some people are very familiar with front-end examples, and some people are CLI only. And so it's great to have the option to do both.
Exactly, yeah. I guess some people are more visual, right?
Very much so. Most people, don't ever look at a terminal. They're always looking at a GUI. It just really depends where you're coming from. But that's the whole no-code movement for building. But I prefer a CLI if it can be done, and if you can have a great folder structure like that. So you're saying starting with the, hello is an example, call is an example, there's example tutorials. But to get started, say, with something like this, like more framework, start with example contracts.
Yeah, exactly. So you would basically git clone the example contracts repo, and then you're good to go.
And it's all right there. All of the demos in neat order.
Yeah, and and there's something else. So basically, let's say you simply want the example without cloning the actual thing. We also have npx ZetaChain. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this tool, Matt, but basically this is our CLI.
This is what I started with. Yeah, this is what I've just started with is the CLI.
So basically, npx ZetaChain new would actually clone, whatever example you want to into your local system. So let's say I run npx ZetaChain new. Then I have this interactive command where I can choose what is the example I want to create. And I could also, do hello, which is the one we just did. And once we merge the front-end example into the repository, that would also be available here.
I see. Very good. So better to start with ZetaChain CLI from the top with npx.
I guess it's more of a utility thing. I guess it makes things more convenient.
I'll have to do some cleanup after my tutorials to make sure that I don't have any of those folders already existing.
Yeah, that's probably the case. You might have a few of those already, so I guess good cleanup and start from scratch.
Start with, and I will definitely. I'm excited to jump in and start cloning some things and making some properties. And it looks like Solana, Sui, Ton, and Bitcoin are already there.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. So basically, we also have commands for all of those. Let's say, for example, you want to run a Solana transaction. Let's take a look at what we have here. Help. So you basically can call the call, deposit and call, and the deposit functions right here into the ZetaChain CLI.
Okay, well done. Very good. So how would I see a list of all the commands just with npx? Like
Yeah,
npx.
basically npx ZetaChain. In fact, I think we also have this command called docs. I don't know if it is docs or if it is query docs, but let's see if docs works. Yeah. So basically, it's as easy as this. In fact, something else you could do is, let's say you run, I'm not sure if you saw, but basically this outputs a markdown document. So you could do something like say that docs.md, and then you can open that with something like VS Code, like say that docs.md. And here you have like all of the good stuff, open preview, and basically you have the
That's
entire
a tutorial in
documentation.
itself. That's a whole
Yeah,
tutorial in itself. Right there.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, without wanting it, basically we showed people how to generate a markdown docs, for our CLI, and basically the entire docs of every single command we support is here.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm gonna get as a printout and make a poster or like a keyboard.
No, and the good thing is that each time we support a new command, I mean, this will get automatically, updated. So each time you run this and there's something new, it will automatically appear here.
Okay, very good. So between the docs, the tutorials, the example contracts, pretty easy to get going. Pretty easy to
I
get started.
think so, yeah.
If you know where to start, right? If we find the entry points I think
Well, I
there's
think that's also really important, right? To make, the entry point easy to understand,
it
easy
is
to
it
find.
is fairly simple if you know where to look. Not gonna lie,
Exactly.
it's very quick. You make it look very easy, super quick. But identifying where to start, that's what I'm after. Really finding the right setup for adding these to lots of hackathons. Definitely,
That's cool.
it is very cool. So, and how did we get that lower thirds banner? That was pretty neat. That
What
was,
was that?
I think Dennis added that in.
Yeah, I just posted a link to the docs while you guys were talking.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't notice.
That was that's how it's done live. Very good.
Good
I
stuff.
who knows what the results on Instagram will be, but I'm sure it will be on Instagram uh, as well. I don't have anything extra to add other than I'm excited to get started. I'm going to start with npx and the CLI and a clean terminal. It looks like. And one more question: what are you using? How are you using iTerm 2? It's like a browser-based additional Mac terminal. It looks like.
No, I mean, actually, I think this is like a simple terminal emulator for Mac OS, but
Okay.
I really like it because it has very easy shortcuts. So this, for example, is like my terminal environment one. Then I have two, which, as you can see here, in the front end example, one is basically, my main user folder. Then I also have one in the toolkit, then on Zeta apps. So it's like I can very easily navigate this. And let's say I want to like start, adding some panes. It's as easy as doing Command D and you having your pane. It's pretty cool.
So for like local net development, having two terminals open is no problem.
That actually is one really good use case. So let's say you can do npx ZetaChain localnet start. So you could run localnet on one pane, and
Right.
directly at the right, you can start, writing commands for like calling contracts or deploying or whatever.
Yeah, that was my trick of yesterday. I was like, I have two terminals running at the same time, running local net.
No, I mean, if you are a Mac OS developer, I guess I would really recommend iTerm too. I mean, I'm a huge fan myself.
Yeah, iTerm. I've had it. I've had it. It's always on my computer. I just never really learned how to use it very well. So,
No, yeah, go for it. And I mean, it's super easy. Basically, these windows are just, opened with Command T, and these panes with Command D. It's as easy as that.
hot keys, hot tricks for the trade. You should. These are definitely going to go down on the poster along with with the docs export, the query, docs query.
Yeah, a few pro tips here and there.
Invaluable
Awesome.
information for building on Zeta. Go ahead, Dennis.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to also share something. We have new examples coming up soon, and I wanted to share a quick, or not so quick, preview of what's coming soon. So let me just share my screen. And yeah, so you should be able to see my editor now. I'm in the examples directory, examples repo, and we are soon going to have a new example here, which is all about cross-chain messaging. So for those familiar with how ZetaChain works, you know that ZetaChain has been has supported cross-chain messaging for a long time. It's powered by the gateway. You can send messages, calls, and value from connected chains to ZetaChain and back. So it's bidirectional communication. And all of this logic is handled by a universal contract that you develop, right? So as a developer, you write a contract, deploy it on ZetaChain, and it orchestrates all these cross-chain communications, right? It handles interoperability with the primitives that ZetaChain provides, like the gateway and others. But sometimes developers just want to connect existing contracts that live on other EVM chains. Let's say they have a contract on Base and Ethereum, and they need a way for these contracts to talk to each other. And they might not be ready to start building a universal app. Can't blame them, right? So what we want to do is provide a tool for them so that they can connect these existing contracts on EVM chains. We support a bunch of chains already. So we wanted to provide this tool for them to be able to send messages and value between chains without deploying anything on ZetaChain, if that's what they want to do right now. So this example is dedicated to this specifically. So it's super simple, and it uses standard contracts. We're going to have what we call universal router, which is a contract that handles these messages on your behalf. It's a universal app, but one that anyone can just use. So you don't have to deploy your own router. You can use the one that we provide. And this is how your app might look like if the only thing that your app did is emit an event. But you can see some familiar handlers like onRevert, and we've got two new ones, one on message receive and on message revert. These are not standard gateway handlers. These are handlers specifically for cross-chain messaging. So the same contract, in our case, messaging.sol, is deployed on Ethereum and any other chain. I mean, you can connect Polygon to BNB or Base to Ethereum to Avalanche. It's really up to you how many chains you want to support. And you can deploy the same contract on these chains. And whenever a message is received, the on message receive handler will be called and logic will be executed. And you have parameters like data, which contains the message itself, sender address, amount, asset, because you can send both native gas as well as ERC20 tokens that ZetaChain supports. And it also supports reverts. So if a message is failed, the execution on the destination chain has failed, then it will attempt to send the message back to the sender chain, and it will call on message revert. And if like everything really goes wrong, then on revert is called, which is the standard ZetaChain handler for handling situations where the cross-chain transaction fail. And here's an example of how you would send a message. Very standard stuff here: gateway, deposit, and call, and you just send it to the router. So this is the contract that handles these cross-chain messages. And guys, by the way, if you have any questions, just feel free to stop me and ask.
No, so far so good, I think.
Okay. So, okay, now let's actually try running this on testnet. I'm going to copy and paste some commands just so that I don't make any mistakes, but I'm going to walk you through what happens. So,
any chance you can like submit a wrong transaction so we can see how on revert works?
yeah, let's do a successful one first and then try revert next. So the first thing you need to do is deploy the contract on one of the chains. So we're going to be deploying it to Ethereum Sepolia. And you have this set of commands here that you can just call with in your shell, right, for deploying, connecting, and sending messages. It takes a while for it to process, but yeah, now we have contract deployed. We can echo it, contract Ethereum, our address.
I mean, that was pretty quick for actually deploying a contract, though.
Yeah, and now we're going to deploy it on base just so that we have two contracts. Could have been any chain. Okay, we have two contracts deployed. The next step is we need to tell these contracts about each other, because a contract, when it accepts a message, it needs to know that this message is coming from from a trusted source, because if it doesn't do that, then anyone can just send a message to unlock funds or to do any kind of destructive action. We don't want that, right? So we need to tell both contracts about each other so that they know who to trust. So we call this command connect. So now we're telling contract on Ethereum to trust the target contract, which is contract address on base, and we tell it the chain ID, because that's how it verifies. It needs to know on each chain there could be only one contract. We trying to keep it simple, but of course, a single contract can execute any kind of logic. And now we need to do the same, but on base. So think of it as a handshake, right? Contracts need to know about each other. So we've done that, and the next step is to actually send a message. So we have a command called message, which does exactly that.
I have a question. So basically,
Yep.
you need to connect them to both receive and send messages to each other.
You don't need to connect to send a message, because you tell which contract to call when you're sending a message here. So it's not required.
Let's say, for example, the architecture of the app is just a chain will always send and the other one will always receive. I mean, you would only need to connect once on the receiving chain, right?
That is true. Yeah, you can do that. I mean, we in the next versions, we can even kind of customize this and make it more involved, the authentication system. But for the first version, I think it's just important to have like a trusted list of contracts. But yeah, actually, a really good question. So, okay, we're going to be sending a message from base to Ethereum. So we're passing contract address on base, which contract you're sending from, and target contract is the one you're sending to. And target token is actually a zRC20 address of the token that you will get on the target chain. So this is just zRC20 of Ethereum ETH, but you could have specified zRC20 USDC. In this case, the receiver contract will receive native USDC thanks to ZetaChain's support of different native tokens. It's really powerful.
How would you specify an individual token? What would you add additionally to that?
I mean, you would just it assumes that you're sending ETH,
Ethereum,
right? And the target token is just an address. So what you would do is you would run. Actually, don't know if we have this functionality already or only on the.
I don't mean to ask the hard questions. I really
No,
don't.
it's not. Oh, we actually have it already in production, so that's good. So you can query tokens list and get ZRC20 addresses of all the tokens we support on testnet. So if we go back to this terminal, this should be ZRC20 ETH. There it is. And if you wanted to do, if you wanted to send USDC, we would copy this address. But let's stick to gas assets for the demo, just for simplicity. But yeah, you would just replace this address. And the amount is the amount of tokens you want to send. Right now, you do need to provide some amount because the outgoing call to the destination chain, in our case, Ethereum, requires gas. We're going to make it simpler by estimating how much tokens you need to send if you just want to make a call without assets. But for now, it's just hard coded. Let's use this amount. Should be enough. And let's do it. So again, we're sending a message from Base to Ethereum, from one messaging contract to another. Here is transaction hash. So let's open another terminal and say query this hash. Should actually add a spinner here just to make output a bit more friendly, but it hasn't found anything yet. Let's give it a few seconds to. Base is typically pretty quick, but I should actually try Arbitrum for testing if it's so fast.
I think Arbitrum is even faster, right?
Yeah, it's super quick.
Today. It was fast today, for sure.
But yeah, okay, let's give it a few minutes. No, not minutes. Hopefully it's going to be faster, but it really depends.
Hopefully seconds, right?
Yeah.
How many tabs do you have open, Dennis?
Tabs? Just a few. I don't know.
Sometimes live streaming plus node equals slow. There it is.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you can see that the processing on ZetaChain actually takes like less than a second almost. But yeah, you can see that has been processed and we're waiting for the outbound. It could still fail. Actually, I had a few failed transactions, but it was because I submitted an amount that was insufficient. So what I'm going to do next is actually update the message command to estimate how many tokens you need to provide to stop users from sending amount that is too little, because you don't want to wait for the transaction just to see it fail. And while we're waiting, we're gonna just gonna explain a bit more about the router. So the router is going to be something that we're going to maintain and keep it updated. It's going to be deployed on testnet first and then on mainnet when it's ready. And anyone can just use the same router. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can even like specify router address as an argument if you want to use another one. There's really no reason to do so, but it's there if you want to. And the whole thing, like, the reason behind cross-chain messaging in general here is we want to give developers the tools that they need, not the tools that ZetaChain is best at, but the tools that they actually need right now. If what they want is to send messages, like we should be able to provide the tool for them, and we're doing exactly that. But the cool thing, and what separates ZetaChain from some other messaging solutions, is that you can start by using messaging and send data back and forth between existing EVM chains. But at some point, you're going to realize, okay, this is cool, but I want to make one more step and like make it more customizable. I want to have more power, more control over what happens under the hood. Maybe you want to pre-process the message. Maybe you want to use a different logic for swapping tokens, right? And you're sending ETH from Base and you get USDC on Ethereum. Under the hood, it's using pools on ZetaChain. Maybe you want to use a more efficient logic for this. or maybe you want to support Bitcoin. And that's where the full power of ZetaChain comes into play, because you can essentially fork the router and make some changes to it, and then point your apps to your own router. So instead of using the one that we deployed, the vanilla version, you can point it to your own customized version that does crazy stuff that your application needs, right? Maybe it handles calls from Bitcoin and reroutes them to Solana or something. So on the one hand, it's a contract that you can use kind of out of the box for pure, simple cross-chain messaging, point to point from Polygon to Arbitrum, for example. On the other hand, it could act as a template for you to build something more sophisticated if you decide you want control. And like this gradual increase in sophistication and the complexity, not complexity, but like in the feature set, I think is really cool, because you don't really get that from other solutions, where you can like start with something very simple and then take control over the whole thing and modify it to your liking.
It sounds like a call for code from Dennis to the community. Literally, I can see the marketplace now of all the different cross-chain use cases and the different, flavors of how they come out. And, hopefully that's something that we'll see more and more of coming from the community, or different use cases for, as you describe it, the router. Very nice.
Yeah. So this is just as a disclaimer, this is still in an open PR. So we're going to review it, check for errors, improve it. And yeah, it's just a sneak peek of what's coming. But what we want is to get feedback from you guys if you think it's cool, if you would use something like this, just let us know. It's an open PR in standard contracts repo, and you can check it out and leave comments. But yeah, we're planning on bringing this to production pretty soon, hopefully. But yeah.
So you're saying the community can interact with this directly on ZetaChain's GitHub. There are open requests for it now in the standard contracts folder.
Absolutely. So let me just share
Set
the
it
PR.
Emphasis. Yes, please do.
Just going to use the fancy banner functionality. There you go. We're living in the future. We would be living more in the future if this was a QR code, but yeah, we'll figure it out by the next dev office hours.
Screenshot it. Look it up.
Yeah.
You were here at standard contract pull number 38. Super early and very bullish on ZetaChain. Yeah. You guys are definitely the ones to watch about who knows what to do on ZetaChain. So make sure you guys stay tuned for what Dennis and Hernan have coming out next. More than just sending transactions or calls on chain. I'm sure you guys have thought of this, many use cases already. I can't wait to see what's there.
For sure. Well, that was all from my side. But yeah, I think we can wrap this up.
Yeah, for sure. I think we have a few questions here. So let's take a look. So we have the group all connecting from Costa Rica. That's cool. Need to make sure you have enough Sepolia ETH to compile all of your interconnected smart contracts. Yeah, that's true. That's something that we could start checking before actually submitting the transactions. What else? Like, can someone tell me what is special about ZetaChain? I think you covered that already.
Yeah, but for those who are just kind of tuning in or are new to ZetaChain, very brief overview. ZetaChain is EVML1, where you can build contracts that can be called from any connected chain, from Ethereum to Bitcoin, Solana, Ton, beyond. And these contracts can also make outgoing calls. So it's a very powerful platform to build applications that are multi-chain from the grounds up. And you don't have to establish bridges, worry about wrapped token. You just write one contract that handles all these cross-chain calls, and that's it.
That's cool.
So one more question, ZetaChain is just like an L1. Yeah. So ZetaChain is more than messaging protocol. We demoed messaging today, but it's just one application of ZetaChain. It's all powered by the same decentralized system of validators that observe calls from connected chains, and they ensure that ZetaChain is decentralized. They produce blocks. They are responsible for signing outgoing transactions. So it's far more than it's much more than a messaging platform. But what you can do is you can actually build messaging on top of ZetaChain, which we did and demoed today. So you don't have to build it, but you can build other cool stuff that actually uses ZetaChain for like end users. So we're building like infra tools, libraries that you can use to build end user applications, because I think that's what matters at the end of the day, right? We want developers to have as much stuff already pre-built so that they can focus on end user use case, right?
So let's recap. We have the CLI, we've got the send transaction, hello, and call tutorial, or you can get them all neatly from the example contracts, as we learned from Hernan, which is great. What else did we do today? So that I think the CLI is probably the most important thing that I gathered from today. It's how to use it, better use it. This is a great tutorial for how to use
Also, the messaging example was pretty cool, I think.
Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, it's the first time we got to see it with a UI from the CLI, kind of two different perspectives of the same thing, which I'm excited to use that UI example from the toolkit. It's from the ZetaChain toolkit. And help me out here, guys. I don't remember everything.
No, yeah, so basically the front-end tutorial lives on example contracts, but it's actually importing functionality from the toolkit. So in essence, while it actually lives on example contracts, you are still using toolkit functionality there. I guess it's a really good example to showcase how easy it is to import toolkit functionality into your projects, which is pretty much plug and play.
That I think is a big win. That would be really helpful. Just simple things like how to inject your package or your toolkit into your scaffolding or application. Very good.
Yeah, Joseph says, thanks, guys, you clarified. So yeah, that's cool. I guess we helped someone today.
And thanks for the questions. It's actually awesome to get kind of feedback and questions from the community.
Gotta make sure there's no typos before I reply.
That's cool.
It is very much an L1. He likes it, and let's use it for his app. Wow, get building, and let's see what we can come up with for that new application for sure.
And just a reminder, if you guys have questions about how to build on ZetaChain, go to our Discord server. There's a dev general channel, and we'll be happy to help you get started building on ZetaChain.
You can find these videos after the call on X, on YouTube, and now on Instagram. Thank you, Dennis and Hernan. Very great job today, guys. I'm looking forward to reviewing these videos and following along through that, and hopefully I'll get it down to 5 minutes like you guys.
Thank you, guys, and goodbye.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.